acceptable to you, and my strength and my redeemer. The heavens are telling the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. Day by day pours out speech, and night by night declares knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Yet their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom from his wedding canopy, and like a strong man runs his course with joy. Rising is from the ends of the heavens, and its circuit to the ends of them, and nothing is hid from its heat. You know, I think it must have been easier in the ancient world to believe in God and have faith in God. God was everywhere. God did everything. God was always there. And you think about it, how it all started out. I mean, God was there right at the very beginning, and God was walking with people and talking with folks, and he was out there and he was among folks, and God was present everywhere all the time. But they had this sense of humanity being in the middle of it all. I mean, the sun revolved around the earth, and the stars were just pinpricks up there. They were put there just to light the evening, and so was the moon. And it was just so much simpler to have this faith in God and to have this faith in a God like a human being, just a big guy, you know? I mean, God would go out and walk in the garden with Adam and Eve at night, and then you have God's front and God's back, and he walks by Elijah. I mean, it just was so much simpler back then, wasn't it? They had this faith in God. The Israelites, I mean, before that, you know, we had the God of nature, the God of the sea, the God of the sky, the God of the mountain, the God of the forest, and all that. But the Israelites said, no, there's one God, and he's the God of all creation. But even then, it was a God that was it was a simpler time to be an ancient and to understand that God just is in charge of everything and to see God everywhere. It's not like that. It doesn't seem to be. I mean, we know that the sun doesn't revolve around the earth, and the earth doesn't revolve around humanity. I mean, let's, get over ourselves. I mean, we've got the earth revolves around the sun, which is just one star in the Milky Way, a galaxy of millions, if not billions of stars, with how many millions of planets around all of those stars, and then there are millions of galaxies, and there's trillions of stars, and the day goes on and on and on forever out there. It's not just out there. I mean, we've discovered so much about the wonders of creation. I mean, there's life at the very deepest of the oceans where there are thermal vents coming up, and the pressures are just, they would crush anything we could even understand or make, and yet there's life there that is thriving in a poisonous, deadly, heated environment. And we find life everywhere, just thriving and living, and there's just, it's not just even life. I mean, it's the world of nuclear physics, and you look at the wonder and how it's all put together, and then there's just crazy stuff like Fibonacci's numbers, and on and on and on it goes. Everything is just so amazing. Quantum physics and all of it. I mean, how God has just become so unfathomable. I mean, God is just so big. I mean, it was one thing when you just got the earth to worry about, and the sun is living in a tent driving across the sky during the day. But no! I mean, it's just millions of galaxies, for heaven's sake. And God's in charge of it all. God just blows your mind. How can you even begin to comprehend anything like God? How? And then there's Jesus. We say at Christmas time, in proper preface, we don't say it very often. Christmas only ends 3 or 4 weeks. Preface of Christmas time. Beholding the God made visible, we may be drawn to love the God we cannot see. There's Jesus incarnate, the person of God who came to the world. He is how we know God, and what God is, and how God cares for us, and what God does, and who this God is. It's in Jesus that we find God. And we find God in the stories of Jesus like these 2 healings we have today. I mean, let's was to suppress the Jews. He may have built their synagogue for them, but there had to be some political thing going on there. I mean, let's face it, he was a foreign pagan who didn't worship the God of the Jews, who didn't care about the Jews, and it's his slave. It's not even the centurion, it's his slave. And what does Jesus do when he comes to him and he learns about it? He starts off towards the house. Yeah, I'll be right over. I'll be right over. He doesn't even come himself. He sends an intermediate. I'll be right over. And Jesus takes off to go to heal this slave. And then when he stopped, he says, yeah, don't come in. And he hears this litany that the centurion's friends go through. He heals him at a distance. Takes care. This foreign centurion, soldier, just the antithesis of everything Jesus has preached about, peace and love and caring. But he does it for this centurion. And then we have the widow of Nain. If there's anybody lower on the social totem pole than a slave, it would have been a widow. A woman beyond her childbearing years is worth less. She is nothing but a liability. All she is another mouth to feed. She is absolutely worthless in this society. And we have this widow named, and it says that Jesus had compassion for her. He loved her. Unknown, just a woman across the street in a funeral procession, and he has compassion for her. And he addresses her. And we know he could have done this in the distance. He just healed the centurion from, we don't know how far away. He's approaching the house, away. He was only across the street. He could have said, hey, guy, get up, you know. But no, he walks over to the unclean and touches the bier, touches the uncleanliness, comes to the death of that boy, comes to death and to uncleanliness and touches it, purposely reaches up and touches it and takes this unclean body, gives it to his mother. Because he had compassion, because he cared for her, for this low of society, a slave and a widow, a foreign slave and a worthless widow, a worthless woman. Jesus has compassion. What does this tell us about this God that is so unfathomable, so beyond how we can? What does it say about how this God desires us to be with one another? What does this say about who this God is? About this God that is the God that created these trillions of stars, these wonders of nature, these amazing quantum physics, this space that is beyond my comprehension, anyone's comprehension, to understand the distances involved. Where light started before the dinosaurs even were thought of, were existed, and we're just seeing it today. What does it say about that God? This God that came to live with us. This God that cared for the least of these, that had compassion for the widow, that raised her son, that had compassion for the enemy, the soldier that lifted up his slave. What does it say about who we are? About this God